Welcome back. Today we are talking with Regina Phelps, and we are talking about leadership in times of crises. Great
So we
first
were just,
segment there, Regina.
that was went by fast, didn't it?
It did.
So before we go on to the next one, we were just chatting while we were at the break, and you had a really good example. I asked you if you had a good example, and you said yes. And I'd love you to just briefly talk about the example of how to improvise, and especially in relationship to the cyber attack and your experience, because your experience is what I hear from my clients all the time. I'd love you to share.
Yeah, it was a really tough conversation between IT and the business. And even though I was business continuity, I was reporting through IT at the time. And we were having that conversation about data loss. And let's face it, business was saying, well, you guys will get it all back up and running and it'll all be there again. And we were
It's your
having tough
fault.
conversations like, no, that's not what could happen. You could lose data. Well,
Mhm.
we don't know how to get that data. Well, you're going to have to find a way. And we had to have tough conversations, and things started to happen. Like, we were a financial institution, so everything we sent was going through a bank. I said, you're going to have to get on the phone with the banks, find out what we have sent you the last 24 or 48 hours, all the files, getting copies of those files. When the systems are available again, find out, if the data you have received from your banks, if it's there, what needs to be re-entered in, what may have changed. While you're waiting for that, you're still going to be doing some other operations. So you've got to track things through spreadsheets. And then when it's all available, you've got to find out what is new, what's old, what you don't need, and reconcile it so that it all works out again. I said, that's you. That's not IT. They don't have access to that data now. So there's no way they're going to be able to do that for you in a cyber situation. That is all on you. That was
Mhm.
tough. That was a tough pill for them to swallow.
Right. But that's such a great example. This is what I hear from so many of my clients. It's not my responsibility, it's somebody else's. And that's not true. Ultimately, it's the individual business units who have been using that data, sharing it, whatever. They need to really walk through that. And one of the best things you can do in an exercise is to really sort of, boil that ocean and say, okay, there's 3 days of data that are not available. And then the question is, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And so many of my clients, especially I do a lot of work in the central bank world, and they have really worked hard to figure that out. But it's something that everybody needs to do. And that's where an exercise really focusing on those kinds of cyber events could be super helpful. So thank you for sharing that, because I think that's a really great example of real world where if everybody's going like, no, it's not mine, it's somebody
Yep.
else's. Well, no, it's you. You're the business, right?
Yep.
Well, the second or the third characteristic is being creative and being highly adaptable. And again, what you're talking about right now is the issue of creativity. How can you exercise creativity to be able to really change and get what you need and continue to move forward? And I want to emphasize that sometimes, again, people are thinking in really unorthodox ways because they have to. It's not something that maybe that you would in your own comfort of your own situation would normally do, but sometimes you have to be really different in your approach. I've had clients that have taken, for example, like in data, where they actually do a scrape every night and they store it in a secure site, but it's not within the company's usual. They have another site that the IT department has actually put aside so they can actually have a data scrape. They know exactly what they did that day, and they could actually go to that if they had to. It's in a secure site, but it's not part of your normal technology, so it would not be impacted in either something like a cyber attack or possibly just a major collapse of your data center. So, I
Mhm.
mean, what could you do that may feel unorthodox and really different? And that's what people really need to think about, and being highly adaptable. And
Yes.
I think, that's the other part of that is that when we look at being adaptable, it's again not being wed to one idea, one strategy. It's like if the first thing doesn't work, well, then what's the second thing? If that doesn't work, well, then what's the third thing? And being really willing to keep moving and trying. And if it doesn't work, what's the next thing? And we might be doing things that are really different than we would ever do in our normal life. Don't you think?
Yes. I think you've leadership and has to make it clear we are open
Mm-hmm.
to any and all ideas. And
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
that, let's brainstorm ideas and then as soon as someone gets 3 words out of their mouth, you shoot it down. It's like, no, let them finish because
Right.
anything
Right.
we could use today, even a small nugget of what someone says could be
Mhm.
useful in a cyber event or any other, crises.
Well, sometimes, that's the idea that sometimes the craziest idea that you hear might actually be the best one.
Yeah.
And I like what you just said, Alex, that sometimes people would be thinking, oh, that's really stupid. We would never do that. Well, you might,
Yeah.
because you don't have any other options. And that's, I think, a really important thing. No, there is no such thing as a bad idea. We've often heard that. But I will tell you, in a crisis, you're going to hear all kinds of ideas. And you better seriously consider them, because many of them might be the ones that really save you.
Yeah.
And going back to, again, a well-designed exercise, when you're trying to get people to think really differently, you can design situations that present people with problems that you've never considered, aren't documented. Why is that a great thing? Because then they're going to think, well, okay, what could I do? And what you want to do is you want to really encourage that. And I really want to think, I mean, just look at let's like the supply chain issues. That's another example. Well, we would never go to another supplier. Well, I don't know. Maybe you're going to, because you can't get what you need. So if you feel that you've got situations where you don't have enough options, create scenarios, create narratives that actually deliver those problems, and then people have to try and work through them. And then you take all of those great ideas and you put them into your continuity plan. If A didn't work, try B. If B didn't work, try C. If C didn't work, try D, and so on and so on and so on. But it's really making it a highly adjustable, highly malleable kind of plan where there's lots of things in there, instead of saying like, oh, we're always going to do this and then we're always going to do that. Well, hey, I've
Yeah.
had so many clients where that didn't work at all. And so that's what I really wish people would really think about. Does that
And
make
be
sense?
open to all ideas from everyone, not just
Absolutely.
your leadership. Because if you weren't open to ideas, 3M would not have the Post-it note.
Right. Exactly. That's a great example. It's a great example.
Yeah.
And so don't look at something and think like, that's goofy. Well, how many great goofy ideas have we had, right?
Yeah.
Lots, lots. So I think that's really important, having an open mind. The next one on my list is acting decisively. Wow. I can tell you how many clients of mine that fail to do that, which is always heartbreaking to me, but it's really true. Many times people, it's like, okay, who's going to make the decision? Ooh, I don't know who's going to make the decision. So we have this sort of dancing around. And so the idea is that we really need to make sure that we act decisively in a crisis, because otherwise we're going to be in a situation where you're just pushing the ball down the road, so to speak, and we're not getting any clarity. So once people have gotten as much situational awareness as you can possibly get, and then you have taken your plans and all of your new interactive plans and all the things that you never thought you would ever do, then we take the situational awareness combined with whatever we think the best option is at that moment. Then somebody has to make the decision to do it. And I find in a lot of companies, that's where people really struggle.
Yeah. Everybody looks at each other. Well, what do you think? What do you
Yep.
think?
Yep.
And
Yep.
it'll go around and around and around.
Right. Right. But somebody has to make a decision. So when I look at people that in leadership, I am looking for a decisive person, because you have to be able to willing to have the guts and hopefully the support to make the decision.
Yeah.
And if you make the wrong one, you need to make another one.
Yeah.
That's how it works, right? You're constantly adjusting.
Yeah. I've told people it's okay to make the wrong decision, learn from it, and keep moving forward. But if you
Right.
just sit there and don't make a decision, that's even worse.
Right. And I think, boy, I tell you, when I look for leadership skills, I want somebody who has, in a crisis, I want somebody with strong leadership skills. And the second and most important thing to me, which sometimes is actually the most important, is I need them to act decisively.
Mhm.
And sometimes in an organization, I'm sure you've ran into this, is that sometimes people just can't do that.
Yeah.
They're so afraid of what's going to happen if they make the wrong decision. And so, that's where having leadership support in our work is so important, where you've got a executive sponsor who understands this and knows that decisions are not always going to be 100% and that things are going to fail. That's such an awful word, right? It's not that you're
Yeah.
failing, you're trying stuff, it didn't work, you try something else. And so and this goes back to many things we talked about before, and all the times we've talked, the issue of having a strong governance program, having an executive sponsor, having somebody that's going to go to bat for you, and that you know that, and that you're constantly moving the ball forward. That is our job every single day. And on that note, I think we should take a break.
We're going to take a break. We are talking with Regina Phelps today, and we will be right back.
If you like that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.